Facebook and okay, we are going live on Facebook and we are recording. Welcome again to our Hot Topic Tuesday workshop. My name is Tracy Sadawatari, community organizer with AADAP and also a chair of the Gardena Drug and Alcohol Abuse Prevention Task Force, Adult Coalition in Gardena. Many of you signed up for this workshop hoping that we would have a conversation with a youth about his experience with alcohol, his struggles with alcohol. He unfortunately had a conflict with his work schedule, but he was able to share his thoughts and his experience via through writing. So I will later on in this presentation, I will read what he has to say. So no worries that you will be able to hear from him, but just not live here today. Okay, so the question is, what alcohol does to the brain? Many people use alcohol in celebrations, thinking that it's going to make them have more fun. They also use it maybe if they're not feeling so great to help them to cope. What they may not realize is that alcohol is actually a depressant. It slows down your brain function. It can make you feel drowsy, make you lose motor coordination. So keep that in mind that alcohol can make, if you're feeling down, it can make you feel even more depressed and even more sad. So just keep that in mind when you use alcohol, and just know the effects that it has on your body and your brain.
All right. I think the real question you need to ask yourself is, how can you tell if alcohol is affecting your body? High levels of alcohol in your body can result in many dangerous things, or initial alcohol use issues such as headaches, severe dehydration, the constant need to drink water, nausea, vomiting, even diarrhea, and indigestion. So initially, there are signs that is telling you, your body telling you that you're having too much alcohol. Drinking excessively, even on a single occasion, increases a person's risk of detrimental heart effects. Next slide, please. Alcohol-related deaths in the United States in 2021 was as high as 95,000 people who died from alcohol-related causes annually. Imagine. So what is alcohol-related deaths? The deaths from excessive alcohol use are preventable. That's really important. But more than half of alcohol-attributed deaths are due to health effects from drinking too much over time, such as various types of cancer, liver disease, and heart disease. But it's important to also know the short-term health effects from consuming a large amount of alcohol. So what are those? We are talking about some of those short-term related would be like choose to limiting women substance use that's affecting you from drinking and driving, and also anything that's with violence, domestic violence, those kinds of deaths because of alcoholism. Next slide, please. Alcohol use disorder, AUD, in young people in 2019 was 414,000, 12 to 17 years old. Can you imagine that? Alcoholism is the inability to control drinking due to both physical and emotional dependence on alcohol. So it's very important that you control your alcoholism in the community. Next slide. Binge drinking in young people. Adolescents who binge drink are 3 times more likely to become alcoholics in adulthood, 3 times more likely. And binge drinking among the youth is really not a good thing because it can lead into many dangers such as unintentional injuries like motor vehicle crashes, falls, burns, alcohol poisoning. It can also lead into violence, including homicide, suicide, intimate partner violence, and sexual assault. It can also lead to sexually transmitted diseases, and with pregnant women or are young or adult, it can lead into unintended pregnancy, poor pregnancy outcome, including miscarriage, stillbirth, and fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, sudden infant death syndrome. So we really have to be careful when it comes to alcohol and those who are pregnant. Chronic diseases in a person, there's a big cause for alcohol. I mean, it's effect of alcohol, such as high blood pressure, stroke, heart disease, and liver disease. Cancer of the breast among females, but cancer in the liver, in the colon, in the rectum, the mouth, the pharynx, and the esophagus, and last but not least, memory and learning problems because of alcohol use. Imagine young kids starting out and then they keep drinking and drinking until they become old. Next slide, please.
So as Richard had mentioned, alcohol use disorder has high rates. So alcohol use disorder is issues with using alcohol. 14.5 million people ages 12 and older had alcohol use disorder in 2019. That's a lot of youth using alcohol. It's a pretty high rate, especially since many of those adult, the statistics come from youth that are underage, under the age of 21, that are using and misusing alcohol. Know that alcohol use disorder can lead to more problems into adulthood. They may become alcoholics later on in life. So just be mindful of that fact. And the other thing that we need to be aware of is that there is drinking going on in college students. Mind you, college begins at age 18, and that's about 3 years before the legal age of drinking. So a lot of the students in college may be influenced by their peers who are older, who may be of drinking age. They may want to fit in to the party scene, to the college life. Their peers, not meaning harm, but wanting their friends to fit in and encourage them and invite them to these parties. But with that comes some risks and some dangerous statistics. 1,519 deaths attributed to drinking by college students, 696,000 assaults. As Richard had mentioned, assaults such as sexual assaults, fights, motor vehicle, well, that's not an assault, but different kinds of assaults dealing due to drinking by college students. 33% of the college students engaged in binge drinking. And again, just to remind you, binge drinking is drinking 5 or more drinks in one sitting for males and 4 or more drinks for females in one sitting. And binge drinking itself can lead to the myriad of problems that Richard had mentioned earlier. I don't need to repeat that again, but just be mindful that that's a pretty high number. And 1 in 5 college women experience sexual assault during their time in college. Drinking causes people to make risky decisions, to engage in riskier behavior because their mind is not completely cognizant of what they are doing. And a majority of the sexual assaults in college involve alcohol, along with other substances. Sometimes it's a multi-substance use that is causing this. Oops, sorry. Let me go back.
Can we go back to the slide?
Yeah, I'm trying. Hold on. Sorry. I'm going wrong way. There we go.
When we're talking about alcohol, what's really important is, do you know how much alcohol is going into your body? And this is a good portrait to explain that exactly. A can of beer, which is 12 ounces, it has about 5% of alcohol use. A glass of wine with about 5 ounces, but it has 12% of alcohol. It's a lot smaller, but more potent with alcohol. And then the last one is hard alcohol, like whiskey, gin, rum, vodka, and tequila. Everybody knows about alcohol, hard alcohol, because of the shots that people take. Imagine a small shot glass like this which is about 1.5 ounces. It's about 40% alcohol. So if you drank 2 shots of that, right, that's like 80% alcohol, or 16 cans of beer. So gotta know the alcohol content of your drinks. That's very important. Next slide.
Thank you, Richard. So as promised, we did get Raul's testimony. Raul is actually a youth outpatient client with AADAP's youth outpatient unit. He's 19 years old and he did share his testimony. I did ask him some questions because he wasn't going to be able to make it today. So let me just read what he has to say here. He says, "My experience with alcohol has been bittersweet. I've had great times and bad. Like I've pissed in my bed a couple times, but then I've also been able to talk to that girl I like or speak my mind like I want to." What Raul shared with me is that he began drinking when he was about 14 years old. So that's really young. I mean, he still is only 19 and he's not even reached the age of legal drinking yet. And he's already had so many issues with alcohol. So let me continue reading. "My alcohol issue led me to treatment because I got caught stealing beer at a liquor store, and my attorney asked me if I wanted to do drug court instead. I said yes. So just so that you know, if you're caught drinking, you have the option to go to drug court, which means that you're mandated to go to treatment. And the placement for Raul's treatment was through AADAP's Youth Outpatient Unit. So he said yes, and he's been receiving treatment from AADAP's Youth Outpatient Unit. So about treatment, he says this: treatment has helped me with harm reduction and reducing the alcohol intake weekly and seeing what certain alcohols make me act a certain way. It's been a real help now. I have my drinking controlled, so I don't have to be the bad drunk. Figuring out tequila gets me sad and Miller High Lifes get me mad. My advice for others is don't drink alone in a depressing environment, listening to sad music. And if you ever show up late to a party and your friends are already hammered, don't play catch up. So those are his words. I wish he were here so we could get even more insight into what he was talking about here, but I think we get a good picture of what it's been like for him. And the great thing that I learned about Raul is that he's learned to follow through with his commitments. The one thing that his counselor shared with me when I shared back with him that Raul said yes to me after I had a conversation with him, he said, well, that's a good sign that he's following through on his commitments. And he really did follow through with us today by agreeing to, even though he couldn't be here today, he was able to send us his words and so that we can still share his story. And I shared with Raul that the more he shares his story, the more people he can help. And he said, yeah, I guess so. I hope, in the long run, he'll really understand that he's really making a difference for his life, not only his life, but others that he comes into contact with. So with that said, I wanted to kind of just open it up to you in the audience to see if anyone has anything that they have heard or seen in terms of alcohol use, either on a college campus or in your communities, anything that you would want to share, feel comfortable enough sharing here. You can put it in the chat if you're feeling shy, or you can open up your mic and share. Just give you a minute or so just to see if anyone has anything to say.
I do, Tracy.
Sure.
I know alcohol use by youth is actually on a decline, but is it still the most accessed substance? Youth?
Is it the most accessed substance? I think it's even easier to access now, Marlon, because of the alcohol delivery, well, at least at the beginning of the pandemic, because regulations weren't in place yet. And alcohol delivery was a new thing, and people were testing it out and trying it out. And a lot of people were at home, stuck in their homes. And if their parents had bars in their home, it was easier to access. Regulations, I know, have gotten tighter. Now they're learning more about what they need to do in order to keep kids safe. It still needs a lot of work, but I don't know that alcohol is still that high of access point. Hopefully that answered your question. I know I kind of circled around it a bit. Anything else anyone wants to say or questions? Okay, so with that, we'll go ahead and move on. That was our community conversation. So I just wanted to share some resources with you. This is mine and Richard's contact information. I'm, again, community organizer in Gardena. Richard is a community organizer in Carson. We also wanted to put the number here for our youth outpatient unit. Miriam Ruiz is our program coordinator. And if you know of any young people that are in need of help, you can call that number and they can take down your information, do an intake, and determine if it's the right program for your youth. You can also find us on social media, Facebook, AADAP as a whole, and we also have our individual Facebook pages within our cities. You can also find us on Instagram. So those are our Instagram handles there. So we're easy to access, easy to find. And with that,
So thank you, Tracy, and thank you everybody for participating in today's very exciting Hot Topic Tuesday on alcohol and the issue of alcoholism. Alcohol is very dangerous. You just drink it, you know, you can get into accident. But if you talk about alcoholism, it's a lot more dangerous, can lead to things like cancer or domestic violence. So thank you for participating and thank you for being part of our guest. We will having our next Hot Topic Tuesday coming up, so we hope to see you there. Thank you.
thank you, everybody. Have a great day.